You're listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart, and wherever you receive podcasts from. Would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? It will enable others to be able to locate this podcast. I want to talk to you today about, are you growing? And especially, are you growing as a leader? And I want to talk about 7 kinds of things we can do to ensure that we are a growing person and thus a growing leader. We need leaders who add value to the people and to the places where they lead. We need leaders who work for the benefit of others and not just for their own personal gain. We need leaders who inspire and motivate, not those who intimidate or manipulate. We need those who live with people and know their problems in order to help solve them, and who follow a moral compass that points in the right direction regardless of popular trends. Thus said Mary Kay Ash of Mary Kay Cosmetics fame. Here's how we're going to begin thinking about growing as a leader and what I need to do. The first is you have to work on you. You are your number one project. Now, that's not necessarily a very pleasant way to look at ourselves as a project, but don't labor under the thought that leaders are born. The only thing that is born are babies. Leaders are made, not born. They are made by hard effort, which is the price which all must pay to achieve any goal that is worthwhile. Thus said Vince Lombardi, football coach from another era. Work on you. You can't control all that is happening in everyone's lives. You can't control whether people like you, whether everyone is in perfect alignment and agreement with you. You can't work on who you would want to change. You need to work on yourself. You do have say-so and control over who you are. And if you're going to grow, it's because you put in the time, you dedicated yourself to it, and ultimately you were committed to getting better. Always commit to getting better. Don't become bitter. It's easy for the circumstances and the problems of life to embitter people. Do not allow that to happen in your life. Don't get bitter, get better. Start it by working on yourself. The second is simply know yourself. Know who you are. It's a terrible thing to lie to others, but it's an unbelievably bad thing to lie to yourself. Even when you're striving, stumbling, and struggling, it's exhilarating if you sense you're growing. Know what your shortcomings are. Know the areas in your life that need to be developed and where you need to work and where you need to put in the time. Start by knowing who you really are. You aren't going to fool all of the people. You might be able to fool some, but it would be a foolish endeavor to set out to fool yourself into thinking you're someone that you're not. So you have to work on yourself, and you have to know who you are, where you're headed, what is important to you, what are your values, what are your goals, what are your principles. The third thing that will enable you to grow, leader, is let your past be your teacher, not your undertaker. All of us have a past. Even the brightest shiny among you has a past. There are things in their lives they wish, and no matter how hard we wish we could go back and change things, that power does not belong to us. I don't know anyone who really enjoys failures and setbacks. But it is precisely those times when we really get stronger and we really learn the most about ourselves. Yes, the mountaintop experiences of my life have been invaluable and wonderful, and I think and reflect upon them with great fondness. But it's in the valleys I've grown, I've been stretched, I've learned the most about myself, others, God, the world, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful learning experience. But you have all met people who faced an adversity, something that literally emotionally crippled them, and they're sitting by the roadside. They have given up, and they've allowed the event to do them in. Do not do that. If you're going to be a growing leader, learn from your past. Let your past be your teacher. You don't get character because you're successful. You build character because of the hardships you face. Oftentimes, when I ask people to share with me what their strengths are, what things they like about themselves the best, and they begin to list the attributes, often many of those same ones that they list today that they're most proud of and feel really good about were honed and developed and sharpened in the school of hard knocks, in disappointments, in bitter disappointments, reversals, things that went bad quickly. But it was there that their character was developed, skills were developed, and we don't often think about it, but it is those hardships that have really, truly helped us. If you want to be a growing leader, you're going to have to accept feedback. I help some leaders with a review process in my organization, and it's uncomfortable at times for people, but I have met people who are just really averse to any feedback. I realize that we all want to be loved, we all want to be liked, we all want to be respected, we want to have the kumbaya moments, but you can't really grow until you have feedback. It's enough that we see ourselves as we think we are, but it's also a very good test to see how do others see us? Where do others see us going? Where are the areas we're doing well? What are some areas that we need to really kind of focus in on and do our best to be all that we can be? So if you're going to grow, you're just going to have to accept free feedback. Sometimes it'll come in a more formalized pattern as I've just described, but oftentimes it'll be someone with you at a meal. It'll be someone having coffee with you. It may be someone coming in your office and closing the door and simply saying, "Can we talk? What did you mean by this? Did you really say that?" And you have to be open. Don't get defensive. It seems to be, for most human beings, our default position. But don't be defensive. You can learn something through feedback, so accept it. The fifth thing that I think will help all of us, that I believe will help all of us to be growing leaders, is to make sure you're listening to the right voices. Now, I just said be open to feedback, but I don't mean that you just have to be open to unrelenting criticism and fault finding. Often when you're receiving the feedback, you need to consider the source. Is this a person who has my best interest at heart, has the organization's best interest at heart? That's one thing. But if there are people who are just always down, the sky is falling, the world is coming to an end, no one ever has done anything right, I would shift and start listening to the voices. It doesn't mean that they always agree with you or they parrot back what you have said, but you know there's someone who is thoughtful, who looks at things from all angles, who does believe in you, but also sees you as you are and are not offering it criticism publicly, but they're coming to you and saying, here are my concerns. You will become better by listening to the right voices. Now, I don't mean that you can ignore and not ever listen to people who might be the wrong voice, But you can't go and redesign your entire life based on the wrong voices who are giving you the wrong information and will not help you to be the person you need to be. But as a growing leader, you need the discernment that comes to know who are the voices that I really, truly need to be listening to. As a growing leader, this next one is crucial. Do not ever settle. Do not ever say, I can't go after my dreams. I'm too poor. I'm too old. I don't have enough help. Whatever the excuse is, don't give up today and just settle for mediocrity. Of all the enemies that you're going to face in life, none is more resilient than mediocrity. Do not settle. Go clear back to the Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. You've been called to be a trailblazer, a difference maker. You have a voice that needs to be heard. You have something to offer that the world desperately needs. We cannot just settle for where we are. It's just really a simple solution, my friend. You can change one thing today. You can't change everything. You can't change the world, but you can change one thing. And when I have noticed in my life, when I changed one thing, it seems like a whole lot of other things start to change as well. So growth comes when we aim for the future, aim to be better, not necessarily even when we achieve it, but the fact that we have a growth orientation and that we are focused on the future and we haven't given up. We haven't said, I'm just going to settle for average. I'm going to settle for mediocrity. To be a growing leader, you cannot settle. The last thing that I want to say to you as a growing leader is make sure you invest in yourself. If there's an area where we are tempted to shortchange, it's in the area of investing in ourselves. Expose yourself to as much as possible. Go ahead and work it into your budget, whether it's your personal budget or where you work or your business. Just go ahead, attend conferences. Attend them as if no one else is watching you. Attend conferences that will help you grow and stretch. Read books in the areas where you want to grow and improve and get better. Talk to people outside of your circle right now and let them stretch you and grow you. It was in the mid-1980s, early 1980s, that I traveled to the town of Marion, Indiana, where a young man by the name of John Maxwell was holding a leadership conference that in those days was mostly for church leaders. And it was just a few hundred, wasn't really a real, as a matter of fact, it was held in a church. That's how small the crowd was. And I had just about hit the lid on my leadership. I was doing more than I knew. And I needed someone to help me stretch and grow. And that John Maxwell Leadership Conference revolutionized my leadership style. It opened doors to speakers I had never heard before, to books that no one had ever told me to read, to ways of looking at doing things that I had never considered. And I look back on that, which is now like 35, 40 years ago, and I'm thankful that I invested. I didn't have any money. And I remember the fee was like $59 or $69, and it may as well have been $10,000. That was a lot of money back then. But my wife and I made the decision we would cut and do, and we would go, and the church helped me to go as much as they could, and I went, and I've never been the same. It is not a waste of money to invest in yourself. It is actually a waste of time, money, and effort to not invest in yourself. If you're going to be the leader you need to be, you have to be growing. You have to work on yourself. You have to know who you are. You have to understand that my past is my teacher. It's not here to destroy me. Listen to the voices, but always pay attention to the right voices. Accept the feedback that you receive. Whatever you do, my leadership friend, do not settle on mediocrity. And just go look at your budget, go look at your calendar, find a conference, find a webinar, find a seminar, find some material, pay the price, commit it onto your calendar, and invest in yourself. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this has been like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, if you'd please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a review, I would greatly appreciate it. It will help others to locate this podcast. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really, truly are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.